He'll
Bob
be joining.
Wheeler. I'm sorry.
He'll be joining us. He'll be joining us in a minute.
I apologize.
Maybe he's in the outhouse.
No, he just joined us. Joined us.
There's Bob. Okay. Let me see who else is here.
I'm here.
Hello. And
Okay.
then sorry, I called you Bob Outhouse. Apologize.
Can everyone hear me good?
Yep, you're good, Bob. We can hear you
Wow.
really good. Perfect.
Really well. Really
Perfect.
well.
Good.
Okay. And then we also have the fire chief, Andy Roush, and Bob Outhouse. Got it right that time. Also with us is our engineer, George Palmer. And I think that covers everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Oh, hi, Anthony.
How are you?
Good. So tonight we're going to discuss and decide priorities and how to fund it. So I'm going to let George go first, but we're going to do George's subjects first because George has another meeting. And starting out with our road work, our road projects, general paving, as we can see, $500,000 scheduled for this year. But, I want to say something. I really am not in agreement with the $212,000 for the Village Hall parking lot, nor am I in agreement with the Lens Cove parking lot, the $709,000. I know Rich, Nick, and I had talked about the Lens Cove parking lot, and we felt when the property is developed near that, we might be able to negotiate something with the developer to work on that. But we have been over the last years doing a lot of roads, and we have a system to the roads that we do. So I would like to see, just going forward, that each year there's money put into some type of a road project so that we can kind of keep up on that. Also, we're being more proactive with the roads because there's nothing worse than doing a road and then having it being dug up because of a water valve or something like that. So I know I saw Randy and I saw Mike Baisley out today checking water valves before the paving. So George, would you like to make any comments on road paving?
Mayor, Board of Trustees, good evening. As far as the paving goes, I agree with the Lens Cove and the Village parking lot. The Lens Cove has been in need for quite a while, but trying to find, it's a pretty hefty number. I think it was in the $700,000 range.
Yeah.
And then the Village parking lot was in the $250,000 range. And the Village parking lot is not in terrible need. It's aging. It's probably 15 years old, or in that realm. The paving that we did, or we didn't do last year, we just did crack sealing. We carried over for the next year. It was a good move because you get more in bulk. You have some savings by doing more than less. And the projects that we highlighted this year are the road going out from Village Hall to Ketchum, Lindsay to Craft, Lindsay from Craft to the Circle, and then Henry Street from 2nd to 4th. I think that brought us to the $500,000 mark. And
George, could you do me a favor? Could you look at doing on Henry Street from 4th to Tate Avenue instead of doing
Sure.
2nd to 4th? From 4th Street to Tate, so leave that middle section open.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So
There's no curves
bids
there.
Right. So when bids come back, you can evaluate them some more as well.
All right.
So that's it for the roads. And actually, all these sections that we're talking about now are we're systematically doing pieces as we go along. So the worst roads in need, we do them, and then we kind of put them together. Like you see the last piece of the Village Hall, the other sections were done. Park was done, another section was done, Church was done, and this is the last piece. And same thing with Lindsay, and same thing with Henry. So we worked our way up from Lindsay up to second, and now we're working our way towards Tate. So that's it.
I have a question on the paving stuff. You want me to let you finish whatever else you're going through, or should I go by the section you just completed?
We're going to do one section at a time, so we're not all over.
All right,
the
so
place.
then let me just ask, would it not be beneficial? The Village Hall parking lot did not strike. The Village Hall parking lot did not strike me as having much of an issue. And would it be beneficial to have it sealed periodically?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I know certainly my driveway, which is not in great shape, has been preserved for about 10 years now. Just by sealing it every year, it helps preserve it a lot. I don't know if that would be the case for something like that. I see some restaurants do that annually. They get their parking areas sealed. Should we not be doing that at least periodically, once every couple of years or something? If not every year?
We do that for the roads that we want to extend. You're absolutely right. We use that to extend the life of any road that we want to get a few more years out of, that's not quite ready for paving, but it's in need. So yes, we do.
Well, then I suggest we get that sometime around August, we get the Village Hall parking area and driveway sealed, and do it annually, and postpone that 212 cost until the next millennium.
Nick, I just want to make sure, are you saying a crack sealing? We just seal the cracks, or you're
No,
talking about a coating that
I'm not
covers the
talking about
entire?
crack sealing. I'm talking about a surface sealer.
That's why I want to make sure George knew what I think that's what you were talking. I want to make sure George understood that.
We
Well, you
don't
get your
usually
driveway
use those.
sealed. You can get it sprayed on, or you can get it brushed on. Jim's driveway sealing does it a liquid that they spread. I happen to like that way. Most people just do the light spray coat, which I don't find is as durable.
We don't usually use that, but for the roads, but yes, for a parking lot, that would be something that we could look into. Sure.
I mean, I don't know what I would imagine it would be about $2,000 for an area that size. I pay about $225 for my driveway.
More than that, just painting the lines will probably cost $2,000.
Yeah.
Because you have to
Timmy does
repaint
the
the line.
lines. Timmy does the lines in house. Is it Timmy or Bob? Do you do it?
It's a combination of the two. We'll get the machine out. We'll paint it with the machine.
Okay. All right. So we can do that in house. Any other questions on the roads? Right now, we put aside like $250,000 a year. So next year's budget, there can be a decision made, more or less. So
We already know what roads we're doing this year, and it's already budgeted for, right? We're
Yes.
not talking about increasing anything, right?
no. Mm-mm.
And
Well,
do we
Go
still
ahead,
bid
John.
with the town? Do we still bid the projects out with the town?
We haven't done that. We did that a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Something we entertain it once in a while. We haven't done that in the last 2 years, but I think 3 years ago we did it, and then a couple years before that we did it as well.
So another question: the work that was done on Blakely recently, where they filled in the trench, our code requires that they pave out to the center line. Are we going to get the bid price for that and have them reimburse us, or are they going to pave from the center line to the curb?
Center line to the curb.
Okay,
And actually-
so they are going to do it.
Oh no, we're talking to Con Edison for us to bid it out, and that's Blakely as well as Broadway. So George, you can talk about that. Does all the Con Edison work?
Yeah, so what we're basically doing is we are taking the restoration work out of Con Ed and giving us money to do it ourselves. That's what we're doing. So
Okay. And then another thing on in this section is the Route 9A sidewalk, $226,000. How much was this grant for? Are we going to have to lay out? How much do we have to lay out? Is that 226
We're
more
not
than what the
going
grant is for?
We're not going to
Yes.
be laying out any more money. Of course, the state got involved and added on and added on and added on. We've gone for additional money to Senator Harcum and Sandy Gallo's office, and we should have a decision in a couple days. If that doesn't happen, we don't lose the $150,000. We still retain that. So, but we have to do something on 9A, the 9A corridor.
So I just want to go back a little bit, just in case the public doesn't know what we're talking about. We did receive, just to make sure, we did receive a grant for $150,000 to do a sidewalk from the gas station to Walindo's property. That was $150,000. George can talk about the details, but he's been in conversation with the DOT for almost a year now, if I'm not mistaken. Based on the discussion and requirements from the DOT, that $200,000 is above the $150,000. So that's an additional funds necessary to do the project. So, as Teresa said, we've reached out to a representative from the state to see if there's any extra money available to cover that additional expenditure. If not, then the board will have to make a determination to either move forward the project and then bond the money or kill the project. And if you do kill the project, you still have the $150,000 to do other work in the village if you wish to. So, George, maybe you want to talk about how that number mushroomed so large.
Yeah, so we started out with a curb and sidewalk project, and as the state was repaving last year, we were using their contractors' costs, and we said, okay, we're doing curb and sidewalk. State said, well, in this section, we want you to put in all sorts of drainage. And that's when we started adding catch basins and pipes, and there's culverts and whatnot. And that's when our costs started increasing. So that's what brought us to where we're at. State kind of pushed us into this. So, but there is also, I believe, a funding cycle for CBDG, and this may be in the track for CBDG.
I'm sorry. We don't qualify for CDBG grants. Our income levels are too high. So I talked to the county about that.
I thought the village was broken up into low mod areas.
No.
We had several low mod areas within the village that we had gotten development block grants for in the past. So Lindsay Avenue was one of them that we received money for.
On the new census numbers, no area in the village qualifies anymore. I can get that from the county for you, but Anthony Zano has reported that to me because I asked, are there any low and moderate income that will qualify as CDBG? He told me there's no area that qualifies anymore.
Wow.
Our median household income after the last census is $109,000. In 2010, it was approximately $62,000. So for us to be available for any state grants, the CFA funding, you would have to be, the median household income would have to be below 90,000. So we're out of that threshold too. We look for grants, we certainly do. And Nick, also, I did want to say to you, yes, we had done a different repaving road policy going back several years ago, which makes anyone who digs up the road, for example, now Con Edison, that they have to pave from the curb to the midline.
Right.
Instead
That's what I was referring to. So possibly when we get prices for this paving area, we'll come, if we come in under 500, we could apply that with the 150 towards the sidewalk. You know, we budgeted 500,000 for the road pavings.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get the bids, if we come in under the what's left over, maybe that can be applied for the sidewalk.
How much is the sidewalk in there? Do you know about?
We need an additional, on top of the 150, we need an additional $226,000.
Oh, on top of it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I thought the 226 was including it.
No, that's the 226 is the additional funds necessary to do the project.
That sucks.
That's a big difference, Nick.
It's a big increase.
How many feet of curb is it total? Is it curb and sidewalk?
George, do you hear that question? And George, explain, and then also you need the culverts and the drainage on top of that.
That one.
It wasn't a lot. It was going from almost Rolindo's where that ends up to the store.
Do we have are we allocated any money for pedestrian ramps?
Yeah, well, that's included with that cost.
But anywhere else in the village as well? that we?
Oh, no, just that section.
And that's figured in your budget?
That's in the cost estimate for the 9A sidewalk. And I'm sorry, I don't have the length for that right now, but it's a few hundred feet. It's not very far at all. It's 400 feet. It's a lot.
And when the state came in to do the paving last year, over by Blakely Avenue, they did the handicap, I don't know what you want to call them, the ramps there. They did them in a couple of different places on the Albany Post Road corridor.
Yeah, the ped ramps.
Yeah, yep.
All right.
Okay. Any other comments on the roads or the sidewalk?
Yeah, well, what about Lens Cove? Is that part of the plan, or we're not doing that?
I'm sorry, Anthony. I want to get back. If you want to see the details, in case you want to look, it's on our website under bids. So all the details in that we actually went. I think we actually went out to bid on that. So that'll give you all the detail if you want to take a look at it for yourself. Okay.
All right, great.
Sorry. Your question about Lens Cove. Go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, is that Lens Cove? So we're not moving forward with that?
No, Anthony, we had a discussion last year, the year before on that, and George just gave us a price on that. But we feel if someone is going to be developing any part of those 60 acres, that maybe we could negotiate with them to do some work in the park that's next to their property.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, because that's a lot of money.
No, it is. I mean, that parking lot needs total restoration. So I agree with that.
Yeah. So,
Is there a reason why we don't do the joint bidding with the town anymore? I thought we had saved like 10 or 15% or something because we joint bid out a couple of roads back 2010 to 2014. We did like 3 joint bids with them.
we didn't do any roads last year. So you take last year out of the equation. The year before, I honestly don't remember, but I believe the year
we
before
did.
that.
Mayor, we did go with the, I believe, town of Cortland, with on the paving of the roads.
Yeah, we did this section, I think, from Church up to Tate. That was the section that we did because we had Pat Paving, I think, did it.
Is it the plan to do the joint bids with them, or are we going to go do our bidding by ourselves this year?
No, we can always look to see what the best price is, so we can get more road work done.
Well, are we going to, we kind of have to make a decision, don't we? Because we have to put
Sean, George and I will reach out to the town to see when their timeline is. And then George can come back to village board depending on his timeline. But I think George wanted to go out a little earlier. So I don't know what the timeline for the town is, but we can check with them. George, do you have any idea when they normally go out to bid and when you want to go out to bid on this project?
Well, since the funds are there, I think you passed the budget, right? So we can go out, was it earliest April, May? I'm sorry, June.
We're already in May. Go ahead. Yeah.
So June. I'm sorry, in June, right? June it's passed, you can start spending the money. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Marcus?
That's correct, sir. So you can go out to bid, and you can go out to bid now, and then award the bid in early June. The mayor, if you did it, the board meets on June 1st, but I don't think you're able to meet that deadline. But
no. And it has to be with the. We'll have to check with Cortland and their engineering department. So there was an issue of timing, and I think in 1 or 2 years past, there wasn't enough volume for us to make it cost effective, but. We try to when we can, I guess, is your answer, Sean. So
no, I understand that. I didn't know if our square footage or tonnage, because that's what you go by, your laid ton and your hand ton.
Right.
So if we're going to do a lot of that, and you get a reduction in price per ton if we go with the town, I just didn't know if that was going to be the plan this year or if it's not going to be the plan. I was just curious,
We'll have to get back to the board and find out the time, like Marcus said, the timing of when the town is doing it, and get back to everybody if that's something that can work for everybody.
And 1 year, I know we had a timing issue. I don't remember what year, but there was a definite timing issue. And this year, if Con Edison gives us the money and allows us to pave the roads ourselves, we'll have more tonnage at that point too. I mean, we'll have half of Blakely, we'll have half of Broadway, so that will add into our tonnage.
Yep.
Mayor Nancy just joined us, so I know the next part is, unless there's any more discussion on the streets before we get to the sewer. Do you want to have a discussion with Nancy just to bring it up there?
You know what? Yeah, I'm sorry, board. It's only going to take a few minutes. Let's put Nancy on so that she can tell us what her suggestion is. I know she sent an email. Nancy, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Hi. So I sent everybody an email, whether you read it or not, I don't know. I got a response from Teresa.
I sent one too, Nancy.
Good. You sent me a response?
Yes.
When?
Yeah, he did. It was today.
3 hours ago.
Yeah, it was a couple hours ago.
Okay, so it was after work. Okay, not a problem. I don't know what the response was. Sorry, Sean, because I wasn't at work at that point. So basically, it was comparing our prices and hours and family passes to Cortland's. Okay, so really, I just want to see if you guys are good with it. If you want to change anything, you let me know. I also want to get passes via Vista Print, and it has the years on them, and I will get a special hole punch and punch out the year that they are getting the pass for. If they get passes, or they'll pay cash when they come in. Either way.
Yeah, I think Nancy just wants to get the feeling of the board so she can get a flyer out. We can put it on the website, get the news out. Again, the earlier we get the information out to the public, the better. So I'm sorry to bring it up at like this, but I know Nancy's on trying to get the stuff done until we can move forward. So Sean did respond. I think Teresa responded. If everybody else is okay with it, Nancy can start making her little flyers to get ready. She does very good flyers, by the way, so it'll be nice.
Sean, what was your response? I'm sorry.
I said there was no problem with the way you had it laid out.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Good. Is everybody else?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to look at that.
Okay. No, you just came back.
Open it up, Nick.
No, I have it open now, but I don't think the board needs to wait around while I read this.
Okay. So
but I do see the town of Cortland is not allowing non-residents.
No, I mean, they don't have anything listed for non-residents. The town of Cortland's pretty big, so, I don't think they really have to deal with that issue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Whoever hasn't responded, read it and get back to Nancy first thing in the morning.
That would be great.
I don't have an issue with it. Okay. Thanks, Nancy.
All right. That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You guys have a good night.
Nancy, unless you want to stay on when we get to the pool, it's up to you.
Yeah, I'll just paint away and listen. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so we're moving on to the wastewater treatment plant. You see Marcus, thank you, and George, thank you for putting the different things together here. We've been talking about the wastewater plant over the years. Now the DEC requires the new technology, but I'd like to give a shout out to Todd Travis, who is our employee over there. He's doing a great job. Right now, the plant is at 98% efficiency.
Yeah, it's good.
The DEC has informed us that that's the direction we have to go is the new technology. So that's why we'll discuss this tonight. George, would you like to go over the two different, well, there's three, but the two different plans?
Sure. So, item one or Roman numeral 1, rehabilitating the tanks 1 and 2. That cost and that estimate is just for taking out what we have and putting in the diffused aeration system. Roman numeral 2, which is the.
I'm sorry, George. Is this for the public that don't have this? Can you just talk about the numbers a little bit as well, so that everybody knows what you're talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Into a little bit with the coarse bubble fusion, just a little overview of that. So the first one is really keeping the tanks as is and doing the air system.
Correct. So included with that is coating the inside of the tanks, adding the coarse bubble diffusion equipment, the blower, the piping, We have to remove the handrails from the tank, and then we have to put new handrails in. There's some electrical work associated with the blower. The blower is going to be in a covered, on a pad in a covered area at the end of the tanks, and we're going to have to run some electrical wires over there to power the blower. And we'll have some restoration and some permitting, and some new piping, and that's pretty much it. And then that cost was, including the design and the contingencies, we were up to about $1 million.
And one thing I wanted to mention, I remember we discussed this years ago, but there was a cost associated with the electrical that seemed to be pretty high. Also, I don't know, we can get some type of an estimate, but not only that, we had a long discussion that these tanks are 60 years old. They're cement tanks. The concerns were drilling into those tanks. So there were some concerns that if we drill into it, will it break and crack? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, there was a potential to compromise the existing 60-year-old concrete, and if not compromise it, you could compromise the surface of it, because if you look at the tanks now, you're starting to see the aggregate. And when you start seeing the aggregate, that means that you're starting to wear away at it, and it's going to need a coating at some point in time. And once you start coating, you got to keep coating every couple of years. And there's products out there that you can do that, and you can extend the life of it. But if there's another funding source, then it'd be good to replace it in its entirety. But this was the starting point of the bare minimum of what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Question, by when do we need to meet these DEC requirements?
So our efficiency is, as mentioned earlier, at the 98% level. So it just is a matter now of, we told the DEC that we want to get funding in place before we do anything. And we want to, more or less funding is and our system is actually operating efficiently. So it has a lifespan. So we're not at the end of that lifespan yet. We still have a couple years left. So hopefully, the money comes before the equipment, starts to break down. And we're just talking about right now the equipment in the center of the system, not on the periphery. So we have sludge collectors, we have all sorts of other equipment around the sewage treatment plant that would require or may require replacement, even if we didn't do the new technology, which we did a couple of years ago. We did a new sludge chain for a collector. We've done troughs. We've done all sorts of stuff over the years.
We replaced a lot of that. We replaced the conveyor system. We put in a bar screen.
Correct.
We rehab the aeration system. But correct me if I'm wrong. This is only for basically redoing the aeration system.
Correct.
And I'm still kind of confused. If we're operating at 98% efficiency and our dissolved oxygen levels are above specification, we're well within our specifications, and we don't have any open violations or consent orders. What is the DEC? I know the DEC saying they want the best technology, but we're operating fine. I don't understand what the issue is. If we have enough oxygen and we have no solids going out, and there's no extra bio load going into the river, what's our consent order, or do we have a consent order?
Yeah, so we got a consent because the previous operator was running one side at a time. He should have been running both sides at the same time. So when you run one side at a time, your oxygen levels go down. And that was the problem. And actually, that operator got removed from his position. A new company came in, a private company, to take his place. They had a two-way operator. They started up both sides, and the problem went away. But the issue is, we got that consent based on the way the previous operator was operating it. And they have to follow through on that. So it's like you got a speeding ticket, but, things changed already. You know, the speed limit changes a week later to 50. They change the sign, and you go, well, why'd you change? As soon as you change the sign, I'm good. But they said, well, the sign was lower before, so you got to follow through. So it's kind of that scenario that we're working with.
But that really makes no sense. If we're operating a plant correctly, the plant's doing what it's supposed to do. Now we have to change it because somebody operated the equipment incorrectly. That doesn't. There should be a little disconnect there.
We talked at length to the DEC, and their big push is to get new equipment in there. So, like I was saying earlier, the equipment is aging, so it's aging out. So it's been in there since '91, so it's 30 years old.
Well,
so
that's not the only part that the DEC always had a problem with. They had a problem with our gaseous chlorine. They had a problem with us not denitrifying. So if we capitulate to say, hey, we're going to replace our aeration system for $1 million basically because somebody operated it wrong, what's to stop them from coming back and saying, hey, you got to use ultraviolet now. You can't use chlorine. Hey, you have to use carbon beds to get the nitrogen out. You can't. So where are we going to draw the line? If our plant's up to specifications and is not violating our speedies permit, where do we?
Well, that's why they haven't been pushing hard on it. We said we would do it when the equipment either wears out or we get the funding, more or less. That's where we're at. So either one or the other.
If we don't get the funding, we don't have a sense of immediacy.
I think we'd have to revisit that with the DEC and the Department of Health. So, because that's what we told them.
Okay.
So we'd have to say, okay, we didn't get our funding. We didn't get, we can't do all these improvements. What funding are you going to give us? We're still operating at our 98%. So it's something that can be negotiated later if that's the case.
So I'm sorry, Nick.
The issue is essentially there may not be an immediate need to do anything, but it is aging infrastructure, and there is much more efficient technology available. And I'd be definitely opposed to doing Band-Aid work or work just to make the DEC smile if it's not required. If it's not required, I would wait. If in the long run we're going to have to bring the plant up to modern standards at some point when things break down. I don't know exactly what that timetable is, but I think it's also that if we want to be that's a big asset for the village, and there have been other there have been requests to tie into our system, and if we had increased capacity, we could do that without thinking we're sacrificing anything in terms of the village's needs. So possibly then becomes a source of revenue. I don't know exactly how the formula works on that, but so at some point, I think the assumption is at some point we will have to upgrade to a newer technology, and then at that point, do we have to redo the tanks completely, like break them up and make new tanks? Or can we reuse those old tanks that you say are starting to show their the aggregate?
So another issue that came up, I'm glad you reminded me, was that during this whole process, Entergy was shutting down, and now there's something else going back. So that was another issue that we raised to them, saying, well, it's aging, we understand that, but our capacity may change. And we're going to get later into that as another alternative, where let's say Entergy develops and it's not 10,000 gallons a day and whatnot, it's 100,000. We have to accommodate for that somewhere in the future. So that's another reason for holding off and finding out how that site's going to be developed.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this work right now is not to change our capacity. We're still at 500,000 gallons is our license? Is that where we're at?
Correct. It's 500,000 gallons.
500,000, yeah. So we're operating on 65% or 70% right now? We have 30%.
We're average about 260, 270 now.
Oh, so we're only around 50% then, or 60%.
Yeah, 50. Yeah, closer to 50%. Yeah.
Okay, well, that,
Yeah, we're good. So what would the board say if there was funding available? And we
So-
revisit this and make it
Yes.
happen?
So let me ask, before the board to discuss that, there is a funding source if it does get released called WQIP. That's 75% grant funding. And what's good about that, that's not based on any kind of median income. Is the best case scenario will win the grant. And the positive and negative is that we do have some kind of agreement with the DEC, which actually gives additional points, but that funding is not available. We don't know when it will be available. So that $1 million we discussed before we get everything else, I stuck it in next year's supposedly funding, but talking to George, we can put that aside for a couple of years in the future. And if that WQIP grant funds become available, we can bring that back to the board for that discussion, unless the DEC puts pressure on us to do it earlier. So I'm just bringing that up for discussion purposes also. So I can move that to the fifth year, or wait for the sixth year and then see what the DEC says, or wait for the WQIP grant to become available.
Marcus,
Can I
the
ask George a
announcement came out
question?
today from the CFA, the Consolidate Funding applications for the state that are due in by July 30th. And we're going to relook at that, but I believe the WQIP was also included in the median income.
No, because we actually got the grant when I was in Rye. We got $7 million there. And
All right.
I think we all agreed that Rye's median income is a lot larger than Buchanan.
Okay, yeah, that just came in late this afternoon. The state
Okay.
finally approved that, and I quickly read it. So
Unless they modified the grant application.
could be.
So, but we can double check that as well.
Sure, thank you.
What
I'm
is
sorry.
this WQIP?
Water
is that a-
quality, oh geez, it's a water quality.
Infrastructure funding,
Is that federal money or something?
state, it's all state money,
State money.
correct?
but one question I have, back in 2011, we had commissioned, the county had commissioned a study on converting our sewage plant to a pumping station and having a force main going to the Westchester County plant. And we had the roots and everything out in the plant, and the projected savings was minimal over a 20-year period. It was only $300,000 over a 20-year period. But the cost was between $2.5 and $2.7 million, and that's before we had spent money, and that's right after we had gotten the bond for $1.2 million. So if we're in some of the projections that George had put out, even though this aeration system is for a little over $1 million, the other stuff that we were talking about, all the new technology, digging the other tank, that's around $4 million to have the 3 tanks with the current aeration system and everything together. I was wondering, I know I was no longer involved with this after I left office. I was wondering, did anything ever progress with that? That was one of the reasons why we went kind of slowly, because we didn't want to expend a lot of money and then have to bond out another $1 million or $2 million to convert it to a pump station. And part of that converting to a pump station would have been, the county would have taken it over, and they could have incorporated different municipalities and then made a sewer district. As you know, the county cannot create a sewer district from one municipality. It has to service more than one municipality. So we had postulated bringing in Montrose and bringing in Verplanck and having the county take it over. We wouldn't have to be worry about it at all. And it was, like I said, over a 20-year period was only a couple $100,000 savings, but we wouldn't be faced with more capital projects. So I was wondering if anybody had spoken to the county and whether Malcolm Kilperney had given an update with the draft analysis. I know there were some political issues when I had left, and I know me and the mayor had sat down and talked about talking with other leaders, because there was a turnover in some adjoining municipalities who were fighting for a space in the county plant. The county only had around 20% surplus at the time, and they wanted to save it, and other people were trying to get in. So I was wondering if that is still an option available to us, if somebody's willing to go negotiate with the county or find out, or commission another study.
There's been a lot of conversations, and yeah, you were mayor at the time, and That went south pretty fast because it got into the political realm, and there were some people that were for it, some weren't. We were going to have to go through Peekskill, hook into the Westchester County plant, and I know Peekskill, I think it was Mary Foster at the time, but there were people pushing back on that plan because they wanted to save the capacity for future development. So that's what Peekskill's into, the future development now, because I remember it was Yorktown wanted to also come into that plant in Peekskill. Even though it's a county plant, there was pushback because Peekskill was concerned for future development. They didn't want to completely use that. So fast forward, the last couple of years, the county has been talking about taking over sewer treatment plants. The problem is that they will not take over a plant that needs any type of upgrades. And I know you're saying it would be a pump station, but they want everything perfect. So whatever, we would have to invest the money into it for them. But I think the roadblock, once again, is going to be being able to go into there from Peekskill. I think that might be a huge roadblock, but because a lot of other communities down county are talking about hooking into the county system.
Yeah, what they wanted, what the city of Peekskill wanted was they wanted to get rid of their force main on South Street, and the pump station down there had to be refurbed because it was below capacity. So the county was going to put in the pump station, but it was still going to be the city of Peekskill's responsibility. And the city of Peekskill wanted to absolve themselves of that. And that's where we were just going to run. Like I said, there was 3 different routes, and the big deal was just to get down to the lower South Street pump station. So that's the only place, that's where the pipes were going to stop. We weren't going to be doing any treatment. That was basically going to be a closed collection site. And we were going to, as part of the bond, we were going to put in the pumps just to pump over to that force main. And like I said, that was 3 different routes. Is there any way that anybody could talk to the county, or
we can have a conversation?
Find out, because like I said, the leadership in the county has changed that were involved, and the county was getting close to its capacity. They were around 10 to 20%, and all these other projects coming on, there's no way, nobody can operate at 100%. And it was one of the Somers projects that was, some people had gotten up in arms about because they were so far out. But
my biggest concern with doing this is letting that plant go. We have the potential. It's not going to happen right away, but we have the potential to develop 240 acres. So if we start losing control of that plant, just like Peekskill was concerned for future development, if we start losing control of that plant, say, we turn it over as a pumping station to the county, and now you have Montrose hooked in, you have Verplank hooked in, and whoever else. I just don't want that to hurt our potential to be able to develop that Indian Point property. I just don't want us to be thrown out of the loop. We lose control, we'll lose complete control of that, and we'll have no say who comes in and out of there. So that's my only concern with that. I think if we can get a grant for that and basically do it for free, I think, it's an asset. I think it would be a good thing, but that's my thought.
Well, listen, if we could do anything for free, that'd be the best.
Right.
We haven't been very successful in the past couple of decades.
Well, there were some grants along the way, but free is not always one of them. You're right.
One of the issues we had in 2010 or 2009 was we didn't have a shovel-ready project for the federal money. So one thing I would like to see, whichever way we go, whatever plan we use, that it's all shovel-ready. And it has, one of the caveats that we had lost money on was we didn't have specifications for Buy America. Remember, some of the stimulus money in 2008 through 2010 had a requirement that we bought everything American, and all of our subs had bought things from overseas, and that disqualified us. And also not having a shovel-ready plan. So, hey, George, is this shovel-ready or?
So to answer that, we have a plan as part of the consent. We had to give them a plan of just this basic Roman, the first option. So yeah, we did send them plans. They're under review, And so that when the money becomes ready, at least this portion of it can be done.
And let me be clear, there's no requirement for denitrification or changing from gaseous chlorine to another medium.
Correct. So that was another issue. The DEC issues permits every 5 years. And we kept asking the DEC, are you going to make us do nitrification, or are you going to change our permit? Are you going to make us do a higher level of treatment? And as much as you ask them, they don't tell. And unless if they renew your permit as is, then you stay as is. They don't give you any insight into, what's coming down the pike. So that's not going to change as far as we know. Our permit, I think we have another 2 years left on it. And as far as the gas, that's another issue. They want us to change that, but there's no regulation that says that we can't use it.
Well, there's no regulation that says we have to use half of our aeration system to get a positive dissolved oxygen level too. So yes. We're using things that are hard to postulate.
Yes.
So just because there's not a regulation doesn't mean they're not going to say we have to do it, right?
Unless it's codified, they have a hard time pushing you towards doing anything. But again, they push, and they push hard.
Yes.
So,
well, look, regardless, you need to have a plan in place if you're going for grant money. And we should, as Sean pointed out, we should have, you need to be shovel ready, or have your plan in place, your specs written up, whatever it is that it takes. Is it just a matter of this? Is it just a matter of this price breakdown on the different items? If you're applying for grant money, or do you need more than that?
That'd be a question for Marcus as far as the grant. I mean, as far as submitting to the local agencies, we have the plan in. So that's a question.
So we're not going to make these decisions tonight. Why don't we sort of half attempt to move on? I just want to ask one question. I assume that the $5 million price tag for the reconstruction includes new tanks?
Correct.
New concrete structures?
It's the same exact as task one, except it's replacing all the concrete, taking them all out.
And is that price based on doing one at a time, so that you're operating one?
That's correct.
And is there a sense that we will need the third tank for increased capacity, or is it possible that the two new tanks could be larger and eliminate the need for a third tank?
That's also a possibility, but you start to run out of real estate. So the design guidelines for these systems, you need certain depths, certain widths, and certain depth width ratios. So they want you to be certain when you have those criteria. You might be able to make them slightly larger. When you make it wider, you also have to make it longer. When you make it longer, you might have to make it deeper. So all those things weigh in. We use the worst case scenario of putting another tank that's almost like the other three. So that's your worst case.
So we have enough room there for that.
Correct.
I mean, there's plenty of room. Like, Eileen Atzinger has a very big lawn. Could we put one tank there? I'm only saying that because I noticed that she's listening.
Well, remember, Nick, we're only operating around 50 to 60% capacity right now.
So we have some room.
Right. But we also are, operating. Indian Point is operating with far fewer employees than were there before. That's probably one of the reasons we're at that lower capacity.
I don't think they're going to have any more.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have the large number of employees there right now, so there's got to be some reduction because of that, right?
That's part of it. Yeah, the reduction in employees, the outages, that all factors in, and also we've reduced our I&I. We've made improvements to seal a few critical manholes that were causing problems, and that's helped us out as well. So
okay, all right, yeah, right. All right. Like I said, I don't think we're going to decide this tonight.
No.
If you guys agree, let's try to move on.
Sure.
So we're not here at 11:30 like the last meeting.
No, 9 o'clock. Yes, Rich. Go ahead.
I want to ask on the sheet where it says that if the reconstruction and the rehabilitation are done at the same time, could George explain that? You mean there'd be, what's the savings, and give a little more explanation to that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
You say with the rehabilitation will cost the 1.07, and the reconstruction is going to be 5.6. And right next to it says the 5 million would be standalone project if submitted with the above project. The combined estimate would be 4.7. So could you explain that, please?
The combined estimate.
Yeah, George, if you did 1 and 2 together, the combined cost would be 4.7 million versus 5.6 and 1 million. Remember what we're talking about?
I'm not understanding.
Okay, task 1.
Yep.
And then task 2. If you do 1 and 2 combined, you say we did them together.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
So there's things that are in task 1. So let's say handrails. The handrails have to be done no matter what. So if you put a new tank in, you get new handrails. If you do the old tank, you still have to do the handrails. And the same thing, it depends what you can salvage, because we did all these new troughs, we did all these new things. If you can't salvage some of that, then you have to put in new. And then, like you said before, you have to actually demo half the tank, build it, and then demo the other, get it up and running, and then demo the other half. That's the other thing that you have to do when you go to build this.
Stay operational.
Yeah, to keep it operational.
And I guess my question would be, it's hypothetical thing, but if the village had the money, it would be better to do the two things at the one price that's lower than the combined price if it's done separately. Is that correct?
It's better to do the second one instead of the first one.
Yes.
The village had the money.
Yes, the second one, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
George, I just wanted to also mention to you, more information is coming out about the American Rescue Plan. I think I'd sent it to you today, and I'm sure you didn't have time to look at it. But it was the thing I talked about per capita in the village, the water, the sewer, and broadband that you can use it for. And it also said for vital wastewater infrastructure. So I'm being very conservative. I said around 200. It might be anywhere from 2 to 250, but we'll have more information in the next couple of days. So wastewater infrastructure, treating stormwater, and what else was it? Like storm sewer, but it had a list of things that money could be used for. So in the next couple of days, like I said, we'll have a clearer picture of, what money is available for that. So.
Yeah, it's another potential grant to pay for these improvements for sure. It definitely looks like it applies, and the details of it, you got to dig in deep to these grants and find out all the details. That takes the time.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So we're working on things here. So we're going to move along. If nobody else has any other questions with the wastewater plant. No, we're good. Okay. We're going to move on to the recreation department, the pavilion. I know we've been waiting for that grant now. Even if it came in tomorrow, we're going to have to wait until the camp is over. But that, Marcus, that's still in play. That was $125,000 we got from Senator Harcum.
Correct. I talked to Tito today. The money is still frozen as of today. No update.
Okay. All right. George, the main pool. We did have somebody come in to talk to us about the main pool. We're having some issues over at the pool, but then once again, it's aged infrastructure. And so we're looking at $170,000.
And George, maybe you could provide the board any update on the current pump replacement, and then we got to talk about if we're going to try to do the other work for the pool.
Yeah, so we hired a contractor to replace the existing pump that's seen better days, right, Bob?
Absolutely.
and that pump is on order. We did everything to tell the contractor to expedite that pump as well, and we're waiting for some feedback from the vendor on how we can move that forward. And if it doesn't come in a timely manner, we have to go to Plan B, whatever that may be.
So on the pump, George, are they replacing just the rotating assemblies, or is the casing and the motor going too?
It's the volute, it's the motor, it's the whole kit and caboodle.
Right. So it's going to come in as a unit, right?
Yes.
Right.
And then basically the pump with the motor, and the contractor is going to have to do some work for the inlet piping and the outlet piping to connect to the existing system.
So we're getting a new one. They're not rebuilding our other one now.
You can't rebuild it.
No. All right.
How old is that, George? 70s? 19?
Yeah, Bob, you can speak to that. That's the original pump, right?
I'm not sure if it's the original pump, but the pump itself is probably about 25 to 30 years old from what I can gather, talking to people who have been here.
Wow. Got our money's worth, huh? What I'd like to propose to the board for the main pool, we do have recreation money, approximately $200,000, so that we don't have to bond. I don't know what the board's feeling is going to be about taking that money. We have approximately, like I said, $200,000, taking 170 of that to upgrade, repair the pool.
You know how I feel.
Yeah, I know.
This has come up more than once. The recreation fund is not intended for that kind of work. It's intended for new recreation enhancements.
Marcus?
Not for repairs and reconstruction and things like that.
Marcus, were we able to use that money for the repair of the pool according to the terms?
I could double check with Stephanie, but I've had a discussion with Stephanie before. I think it is because it's a major project. It's to repair something it's not like I'm painting the bathrooms, or this is a major repair that needs to be done. So I could double check with Stephanie legally, but the board makes a determination whichever way they want to do it. But we'll double check that.
If I'm not mistaken, the code says that recreation money is to be used for the acquisition and equipping of new parks. New recreation.
It's basically new enhanced, yeah.
I would have loved, I wanted to try and use it too, but the auditors and our legal interpretation wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
And we were going to try to change that law, but that money was given under the terms and conditions of the previous existing law.
Yeah.
It's
not intended for maintenance, and I wish we'd stop playing semantics, trying to come up with a wording that enables us to use it. It's there for enhancements. If you want to put in a playground at the park, if you want to, do something new that enhances the recreation program for the residents, it specifically says it's not intended for maintenance.
What about changing the kiddie pool to a sprinkler area? Can it be used for that?
That would be new.
Brand new.
It's just, the $170,000, we have to repair the pool. So it's either, if we could come out of there, super. If not, then it has to be bonded, or it has to be, you can't put it in 1 year's tax. You can't do it.
So what happened to the conversation recently about using that rec money to do some enhancements at Lens Cove? Whether, we were going to talk about it. We came up with different ideas, whether it's a pavilion or a playground or a kayak dock. We keep, that's the conversation we just had.
I think we just got into a holding pattern, Nick, because the new information that Marcus came up with, that it's our property, but it's the city of Peekskill. I think that's kind of thrown us a little bit, but that's something we have to discuss further. We also have to discuss if we're going to move forward. So that'll be another meeting if we're going to move forward with doing a survey and a title search on there to make sure that in fact is the truth. So that's up to the board if they would like to expend that money for that. So we know what we're doing over there.
Can we go back to the pool for a minute?
Yeah.
This part that is on order, I believe is on back order, George?
They don't stock it, so it's okay. Being ordered from the from the manufacturer.
So is there a possibility that everything but that piece can be done, like the piping and whatever needs to be done, so that when it comes in, all that's already done?
I talked to the contractor today about that very issue. He said I could do some work, but he said the real thing to do, the right thing to do, is you get the pump and you line up all the pipes at once and you put it together. He said he might be doing some double work, but that's the idea, is to do it all at once. So, and it doesn't take that long. He could do it in a couple of days. It's not a lot of work.
Right, but the question is, when is the pump coming in? Because
that is the question for sure, and we should know in the next day or two.
Okay.
So if we can legally use that recreation fund money, I'd use it right now.
Mhm.
You know, we got that money. They had $250,000 or $280,000 since the mid '90s.
Yeah, it's been sitting.
The depreciation alone on it has lost its value. You know, $250,000 30 years ago is a lot more than it is today. So if we can legally use it, we can use it. With all the future development you guys are talking about, that's still going to be replenished through that, because as you know, any multifamily housing project has to contribute to the recreation fund, because we don't have the recreation facilities to sustain an increased child population. And that's what the fund was originally used for, the inception was. So if we can get an interpretation that says we can use it, I would use that money for that right now.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I agree. I feel like if you're going to restore anything down Lennox Cove, you're going to have it done by anybody developing anyway. So
yeah,
I agree with you. Use the money now. You need it now. Use it now. If you legally can do it.
Yeah. Sean, we have approximately 200,000 because when we redid the ball field on the bottom of Westchester Avenue, we used approximately 30,000 from that fund.
It is a new pump.
Yeah. Okay. Because I remember I tried to, because that fund only gets, I think it's 0.1% of interest. Yeah. And I tried to I brought it up to Chase Bank and they said they would give us 3%, but the state said we're not allowed to do that because it's a municipal fund. So we weren't allowed to invest our money the way we saw fit. So that's why it's getting hardly any interest and it's depreciating at the CPI. So it's wasting, you're wasting the money. It's going away.
So, wading pool. So that would be a new recreation item. So if we can't use it for the 170, I don't know, if anybody would be interested in the wading pool instead. So
not a wading pool, a sprinkler, a small little.
You want to do it? Yeah, it says wading pool here. So
right, okay.
You want to do a sprinkler?
Yeah, I think that would be a big attraction.
Because I don't think that's the price on that 100,000, is it?
No, a spray pool would be more expensive. That price was just to bring the wading pool back to the way it was. To do a sprinkler system, it's a little bit more expensive, and a little more Department of Health approvals as well.
Okay.
Can you get us a price estimate for that? What it would be?
Sure. I can get you. There's been some spray pools put around the county, so I can get some price estimates to see what that will cost. The county has put a couple of them already in different locations, so I can reach out to the county, see how much they are.
But didn't
do a lazy river?
Oh, I like those. Didn't that gentleman that did the prices for us? Didn't he give us a price for a sprinkler? Do you remember, Bob?
He shot a number off the top of his head. To be honest with you, I think the 170 will probably be a lot more expensive as well. So again, we won't know until we go out to bid, even to do the main pool. So after we find out we can use that money or not, we could talk about maybe just getting a price from a contractor to see what it would be to bring the pool back.
Okay.
And actually, as far as the spray park kind of setup, there's that gets into the $200,000 range as well when it comes, and you have to pick equipment. So it's not just getting one. You can pick one piece of equipment, or you can pick 2, 3, 4. So the more equipment you have, the more expensive it gets. It's not just a one price. It's like a pool. The size is everything. So this with the spray park or the spray equipment, the more features you have, they call them features. The more features you have, the more it costs. So
Right. And whether you do the chlorine with it or you do fresh water as it goes through each time too. There's two different prices for that.
Yeah, the Department of Health pushes, and Joyce can correct me if I'm wrong, pushes for fresh water. They don't like the water to be recycled.
Yeah.
So that will be additional cost for water as well, because that water just will be wasted.
Yes.
All right.
Well, it was bought.
So I think, are there any other questions for George? Because I think.
Could I bring one question up? I know I don't know how important it is, but it's another big number. It's $546,000 for the Albany Post Road pump station.
Absolutely, yeah.
So George, I don't know. Again, that's a good question for the village board. How soon is that has to be done? So they can determine this is a priority now, or can wait a couple of years?
So that was another issue about when funding comes along. And I think we had a resiliency. There's a stormwater resiliency funding that the DEC puts out once in a while, and that would fall into that category. So it's the pump station, all the equipment in there is fine, all the electronics in there is fine. It's the building and the elevation. It needs to be, the floodplain elevation, I think, is 100 and we're at 104. So we got like 4 feet of freeboard. It's something to that effect. So I don't know if those are the exact numbers, but that's what we're at. And as stormwaters increase and flooding increases, it becomes more and more of an issue. Todd and I were out there one day. We watched the water come very close to the door, and we said, "Oh, this isn't very good." And we gotta have a plan, like Sean had mentioned a little earlier, a plan in place so that when the funding comes along, you're ready to run with it.
Perfect. All right. So George, I think we can let you go on to your next meeting. I don't think anyone has any other questions.
Great. Thanks so much. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, George.
All right.
Good night, George.
Okay.
Night.
So, moving along. So the next item would be Bob Wheeler, the Highway Department. What do you have for us? Oh, is Todd still here? Thank you, Todd. I forgot to say thank you and goodbye. Thanks. Keep up.
Goodbye.
The work, Todd.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.
Hey, Todd.
So Bob Wheeler.
Yes.
So I see you had a 1986 Mac
Yes.
that you're looking to replace. Why? It's so brand new. It's a 1986. I mean, you can give another 20 years now.
It's only 35 years old.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing I can honestly say with the village, we really get our money's worth on equipment, whatever, infrastructure. We've been very fortunate over the years. So this one, how bad of a shape is this in? I know the age is there, but.
We had them rebuilt about 15 years ago now, and let's number on these things. And the roads beat them up. They're older, a lot of rust on the undercarriage that we still have popping through. And as you know, things don't break when they sit there doing nothing. They break when you're using them. So a few of these storms were constantly piecing these things back together to get them out there on the road. Various parts are just getting older, a little tougher to get a hold of.
Hey, Bob, is this just for the edification of people listening? When you say replace the Mack Freightliner, is that a garbage truck?
No, it's a plow truck. It's our small 6-wheel plow trucks that we use in the winter.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's all loaded up with salt in the back.
Right.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Spreader.
Gotcha.
They're getting old. I mean, they don't owe us a dime.
Yeah.
You know, so I know that, and I was asked to take a look at these things for the future of the village, and I'm thinking down the road, these are things we're going to have to be looking at to replace.
Right.
I think they're an important piece of equipment when we need them.
So we have two plow trucks.
We have two. The newer ones.
Projecting that one should be replaced soon, and the other one within the next 5 years.
Oh, you know, we should be okay with it, but you know, that's a 92. So you're reaching a point in time where they start having their life getting shorter and shorter.
No guarantees, of course.
Exactly.
And I did want to add, he's thinking of switching it to a freight liner. Just to let you know, I know another community just replace a Mack with a Mack, and their price was $250 without the plow. So I got to thank Bob's for finding a replacement that are actually a little less expensive for the taxpayers and still gets the job done. So just want to let the board know that he's not replacing something just for the sake of replacing it. He was replaced with something that's cost effective as well.
Good job, Bob.
When I also looked at the Freightliners, I looked at what the town of Cortland has. They have a couple of these trucks. They're stainless steel body. The spreaders are built into them. So it's nothing we have to remove and put back on seasonally. You put a plate on it in the summertime so you can use it for other work in the off season from the winter. And I like the idea of getting a truck that our neighboring communities have, because in the past we have been stuck for parts. And in a pinch, we need them. We give the town of Cortland a call or Croton a call or something like that, and they usually have the parts laying around the bench that we can get to get us going through a storm. It's happened with the garbage trucks, having internationals like they have. So it seems to work well with that also.
What else do you use these trucks for in the off season?
If we can, when we're clearing brush up, we're doing things like that, we can use them. The downside of having a stainless steel body is that you really can't be dropping boulders and whatnot in them, but you can drop salt, sand, brush, things like that. It's a quick conversion over to it. You don't have to prepare two months before the season to get these things up and running. And the good side about the stainless steel is they don't rust away on us.
Yeah, but it's limited use, Bob. It's limited use for what you want to do out of season.
Right. Well, that's our limited use. You know what I mean? But
no, it is. It's still good. It's still good. It's gonna last a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we get 35 years out of all our vehicles. Even our smaller trucks, we're good for 20.
No, the body's good for the salt use. That's for sure. And it's not good for
That's our primary use for these trucks, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And did you shop any other truck or just Freightliner?
I went with that specifically because that's what the town has had. It's a state bid.
Yeah.
It's through Sourcewell.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I went that route because I talked to the guys down in the town. That they all seem to like the trucks a lot. The drivers do. The mechanics do. What matters to me is what the mechanics think.
And that 250's for a six-wheeler or is tandem?
That's for a six-wheeler.
Really?
It's actually 212. The 250 is for the Mac.
Okay.
And the 212 is actually that's a little bit. They put on there the salt brine package, which really we don't need here. I don't think it really fits for the village.
You don't think we'd ever use that? That was a conversation we had a couple of years ago. You don't think?
Because of the size of the village, we usually hit the roads pretty quick once they get slippery.
Yeah.
I guess it works well with the bigger communities where it's going to take them a while to get these roads. They pre-salt them as they want it, or brine them. In our case here, when we get a phone call when it's slippery, we're usually on these streets within half an hour out there. The other problem is, to have the brine. Talking with people in the past, they figured we need 3,000 to 5,000 gallons a year. That now you have to have tanks. They've got that stored somewhere, and as you know, there's not many places here that we can have that stuff laying around.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I agree with that. The brine is a
good
if you have the roads, it's a good method. But we don't have no necessary for that.
Right, exactly. I think so. That was about $15,000 just for that, not counting having the tanks for it. So
plow township and everything comes on that, Bob?
That's everything, yes.
Yeah.
New plows, the whole bit. The plows we bought for the trucks we are using now do put a lot of strain on the trucks because they're made for a totally different plow than they're making back in the day.
And that's an automatic too, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes. Well, I know your Mac is tough to drive in the snow, especially in the cul-de-sacs.
Depends on who you're driving. Who's driving. I like that. I like those trucks, but these trucks will be geared down to do what we need to do. And like I said, I spoke to the drivers in the town. They love the truck. Yeah. I think Croton just got one delivered about 3 months ago. So,
did we budget any money for that in this current budget?
No, the situation would be either to take out a ban or a bond, depending on what the overall project cost is going to be for everything. But then the first payment won't be to next year. Then we can be budgeted for next year. And just to let everybody know, just that general information, if we went to a bond on the projects, for every $1 million is estimate about $70,000 for every million. And that's an interest rate about 1.15%. Talking to our financial advisors. If you do a ban, of course, the ban interest rate is actually less than 1%, but then you have to renew it every year. So that's an option. After your board discuss what the priorities are and what they want to do, I can give you some financial options and you can decide which way you want to go.
Okay.
70,000 of $1 million is 7%. That's principal and interest.
That's both principal and interest.
Oh, okay. Oh, what's the time frame?
15 years.
That's reasonable. Okay.
All right,
So
Bob.
it seems like that would be a priority then to replace one of the trucks, to replace the 86 Mack as soon as possible.
I believe it is. I mean, we've been doing well replacing some of the other vehicles we've had, which has been great for the garage and for us down here because we can rely on these trucks, and we do have to rely on them.
Yeah, we've replaced several trucks
Yes.
down the highway, so we've been able to do that.
Yes, we have a 2011, our smaller dump truck that we use for our metal pickup, and all year it's got the lift gate on it. It's 10 years old. It still does a good job, but that's something down the road you probably have to think about. But everything else is in good shape. Like I said, we don't put the miles, we put the time on them.
Yeah, that's true.
We work hard. None of our trucks are really, owe us anything at the end of the term.
Mm-hmm.
So the other things I put down here, I put down the riding mower, that's the big one you see us ride around town. You'll see us doing down Lens Cove with it. That's already about 15 years old.
Wow.
That's out there almost every day cutting. That's something to think about in the past. That's probably going to cost you. This one cost us 15 years ago, $16,000. So something to think about for the future. It still runs pretty well. We have some electrical problems with it now and again, but we get through. We've had to send it out to ET a couple of times for these electrical problems because there's a lot going on electrically with all these newer type of machines. So that's another thing. And the other thing that really I thought we should bring up is we do have some deterioration of our support columns that are concrete block throughout the garage over the years of salt and just getting old and wet and things like that, where years ago, I didn't go get prices, to be honest with you, on this, because getting people to get prices during the COVID was a little more difficult. People weren't coming to see me. But in the past, from other past formers, they were telling me they're looking at anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000 to come in here and do these columns. The bottom courses of the concrete blocks are starting to rot away is what's going on.
Oh,
So,
that's not good.
that's,
For the salt pins?
Excuse me?
Is that the block for the salt pins?
And no, it's the block that are actually in the garage where we park our trucks, when we clean the trucks out, when we're working on them in the wintertime. The salt, how salt is in the building. It just, you don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
And it's
Marcus, why are we showing this under 2022-23? Is that not important enough to move up to 2021?
No, we definitely could. Again, I threw the number there for next year, thinking that the 212 is a big enough bite that you want to take. But of course, we can move things around where you would like to. Absolutely.
Well, look, if we're gonna be taking out a bond, if we're gonna be bonding or financing this work, we need to pretty much take care of what's essential right away. If it's something that's not essential and it can wait till next year, fine. There'll be other stuff to combine with it next year. It's not like we're taking care of everything in 1 year. So we just need to establish what the immediate things
Correct.
are. That one garbage truck seems immediate. The road paving is immediate. And there's a few other things that seem to need to happen pretty quick.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
The road paving is
It's already budgeted for.
budgeted
Yes.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other things we're talking about aren't budgeted for.
Correct.
Right. Yes. That's right.
Well, I think some of the things Nick might be referring to is also like every year when we do road projects here, we always end up having a couple catch basins that need to be repaired. We have a major curb work that needs to be repaired here and there that pops up on us. We do have some issues down on Broadway across from the ball field. The curb there is coming apart in chunks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Think the trucks are hitting them, Bob? You think the big trucks coming through?
Combination of the work that's been done on the road there on both sides of that road over the years, the traffic, the plowing, all beats up these curbs. And there's some big chunks of curb down there that are really missing at this point in time, 4 or 5 foot sections of chunks missing. They were there last year before the winter, and they're no longer there. They got blasted by something. So they're just things that we always add on as we do our road work when we can. We fix these things as we go along, but it's just something to keep in mind.
Okay. Good. Yeah, because usually if we have money left, that's when we hit up curbs and catch basins and things like that. We've been kind of moving along on the catch basins. And then we had someone last year come and induce a few of them for free for us.
Yes,
and we thanked them. Thank you.
They actually wanted to put him back to his original position when I confronted him on it. I said, no, thank you. You're done with it. Thank you very much.
Yep. There you go. Okay. Any other questions for Bob? Good. Okay. We can move on to the police department. Chief, are you here with us?
I'm here.
Okay. So let's see what you have here. Do you want to go over your list here?
Sure. A lot of this is based off of our police reform and our police reform plan, and the recommendations. So I looked into the getting body cam system, and just pulling up the information here. Basically, I looked into it. The equipment would be ours. We get the equipment. We own it. It would be taken care of and upgraded through warranty through Axon. That's the company I looked into. That matches up with some of our other equipment already. It also links into what our cars have and stuff already. You're looking at over a 5-year plan. It's about $27,000 over 5 years, and then it would continue on a new contract after that. The main part of that is the startup of that. I believe it's the startup year. The first year is $11,000.
Yeah, I think I am pro the body cams. I think it protects the officer, and I think they're good things to have, but that's my opinion.
Well, I also looked into the car cam. That seems to give you a little bit more. It doesn't give you the body cam part of it, but it gives you a camera through the car stops, anything outside around the car, some audio within a certain amount of feet of it. But it also, that incorporates a license plate reader with it, which is a significant, without going through this company, it's about a $15,000 investment. Through this company, it's just an extra charge each year to maintain that product. And that the cams for all 3 cars would be $32,000, about 33 rounded up. And that's including the license plate reader with it. And that's cameras in the car, front, it faces front. I believe it faces rear as well, if there's somebody in the car.
And I like those, the scans, like, so when a police officer is out, I've heard many times, like, it'll pick up the license plate, and if that car was stolen or there's an issue, with the license or registration, it automatically tells the police officer that car has a problem.
Yes.
I'm sorry, didn't we already have a license plate reader in one of the cars? One of the ones we bought a while ago, didn't we already have one?
No, not since I've been here. I don't.
No.
Really?
No.
Okay.
Maybe we had the computer, but you have to type it in.
Well,
We had upgraded in the cars, right, Shane? We had upgraded the
so we have
cars.
Electronic tickets right now.
Yeah.
You can write tickets electronically, and they get sent directly to the state, so we don't have to have them in paper anymore. That's what we got. It's called Tracks, and then you can, you can run insurance and stuff like that on there.
Because for a while, what the officers were doing were still writing out the tickets by hand.
Yeah, up until 2 years now, if that.
Yeah, we upgraded that.
And then the big one that we came up was we need to update our software for an RMS system, a records management system. We don't have one. It's very, it's I print it up and have to go through each and every single line to come up with data. Speaking with our IT department, he estimates about $50,000 for the software, and obviously there'll be some cost every month associated.
Could you say what that does? The records management system you're talking about?
So that piles all our data. So anything that we need to get to the state or to the county or anybody who's asking, we can, hopefully a couple clicks of a button instead of hours of work.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
Done.
Now, is that record management system required for the police cameras?
No, but I would imagine, no. I mean, I imagine anything would link to it, but the cameras are going to actually have its own storage. That comes with the program. That comes through the company. And that will link anything from Axon. So our taser could link right to that as well.
So what's the retention policy on that? How many years do we have to keep it?
Oh,
We're going to need a big database, and it doesn't look like this small amount of money every year is going to be able to maintain all of that data.
well, we're a small department, so they give us the data information. I can look into exactly how much data they give us, but they based us on, our size, what we'll use it for. I would say the retention period would be based on what it is. If it's a crime or a trial, things like that. If it's something that's actually being used in court or something, then you would have to hold it through any processes that, you would need. But other than that,
the state has the 10 years ago, they passed the records retention law.
So it depends on, the issues. It could be 6 years to 10 years, depending on what we're using it for. Or in a case, it could be forever, a trial. So,
and this is Marcus, Sean, and Shane. Yeah, and what you're going to do is, if the board does approve this, you're going to have to approve, because I've did this in other communities, a policy in regards to the camera use, when it's supposed to be on and off. Also, how long the retention period is. We could get samples from other municipalities that save this data, and you guys have to approve a policy. But that way, if we actually go to court, we have to defend it by written policy. So that's the process we have to go through.
Correct. So that's on that. And then, so that was really based off of all the discussions we had through that reform, and the plan that we came up with. The really important one now is we need a new vehicle. We have a 2014 Dodge Charger that is falling apart, and the seat is not no good. They use a cushion. That's going to cause a back injury sooner or later. There's the flooring's all worn out. It's down to the metal. It causes mold and mildew. It just came up as a fuel system and emission system errors. We're looking into what that is and what the problem with that is right now. But that's the car that goes to the shop the most. Again, a lot of parts of that are falling apart inside and just worn out.
7 years old now.
Yeah. It rattles, it makes all sorts of noise.
Hey, would a new one be bought or leased?
That would be on the board.
I would recommend we buy it. The reason why is because the lease, again, I'm on my video too. Cindy's online too. The lease rates we're paying is about 6 or 7%. Why? And that's for 5-year lease, 6-year lease. Mm-hmm. If we bought it, we did a 5-year ban. I'm telling you right now, will never be to 6%. Will probably be less than 1% this year. Depending on inflation rate, might be 1% next year. So I think it's much cheaper to do a 5-year ban. But if we incorporate it in a bigger bond, you actually can stretch out a little longer. So again, I can provide you with those options, so you guys can consider. I can give you a whole bunch of different options, tell you what the principal and interest cost is going to be, and you guys decide what you want to do it. But I've always been against leasing. I don't know why people do it, because it's much cheaper to buy it yourself, in my personal opinion. And no one's been able to tell me what the benefit of leasing, unless you want to, reduce your outside debt service. But at least it's still, to me, is money is still being borrowed. So we can discuss that later on.
All right.
Shane, it doesn't matter to you, does it?
Oh, no. My only suggestion is to try to look into going all SUV. It's only a $5,000 difference. Mm-hmm. And you got much more use with an SUV. We only have one, and this year, if it went down, we would have been in a little bit of trouble, especially with the big storms. We do have flooding. We have tougher terrain, the windstorms, things like that. So the SUV is more practical. It was used, at one point it was used 24 hours a day, probably for 3 or 4 days through some of those storms. Mm-hmm. Again, for the small difference, you're getting a much better use. And that seems to be a trend through most departments now, too.
Okay.
Yeah, for the $5,000 difference. All right. Any questions for the chief?
Well, just to sum it up there, the most immediate thing then is to get a new vehicle as soon as possible.
And what else?
And the records management system is entered in under the 2021-22 year.
Yeah, I would definitely do some research, like we can look into and see where we're going, because we do have a chance. It hasn't moved, but the county was looking to do one. So we need the funds either way, but we, the funds obviously would be different if we linked onto them. I don't know what those would be. But I think that's the most important thing, is at least having the funds available when it comes up, or we do our research and see what the best option is for that. So yeah, I think the immediate thing is right now is a vehicle.
Okay, and you said that to put in, cameras in all three vehicles would be $33,000, but I'm not seeing that in this chart. I'm seeing in-car camera system $6,500.
Well, that's per year. So total over a 5-year, it's about $6,500 a year. For
it's the 5th year, which actually goes to the 6th year, because I was putting it for next year, but I want to do it this year. You're going to move it up forward, so you have 5 years of those amounts of $6,500.
Why is it $6,500 a year? Is this not something you buy and then you're done, or is there some leasing, or?
Yeah, so you have to pay for the services. So you do have to pay for the licensing, the LPR, the license plate reader.
Okay, so there's expense annually, even though you own the equipment.
Correct.
So Shane, is the server large enough? Like with some of these things, is the server enough to be able to handle?
Well, this would go directly to they call it evidence.com, their company. So it would be something that it would download right to that
Okay.
Yeah, so that's including their cloud services. So it's being maintained on their cloud. So it's not a server we're maintaining; it's maintained by the third party.
Okay. All right. Yep.
And that's the way all police departments are going.
Oh, okay. Good. Any other questions for the chief? Okay. Any questions for us, Shane?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Take care.
All right. Keep up the good work, and time to go home.
Yeah. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. The next, and I think the final, is the fire department.
Well, we saved the best for last, huh?
There you go. So I know the chief, Andy Roush, is on, and also Bob Outhouse is on.
We're here.
Hey, hello. So where do we begin here with you? So I know there's, we're replacing the 1998. We've already started the process. How is that coming along? I know it's being built.
Should be done. I just got told today that it should be done around the first week of June.
Oh, wow. It's almost done. Okay. All right. That's moving along. And then I see you also have here an assistant chief's vehicle. The one you have now is a 2009 Dodge Durango.
Correct.
Replacement on that is $50,000. So that's your request for this year. Going further down, you're looking to replace the 1991 in a few years.
Correct.
All right. So your request is $600,000 for that. And then there's another vehicle. The Chevy Tahoe is a 2017. To replace that is $55,000.
No, that would be replaced 2010 Ford.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes. The Explorer. And then there was the top. Am I doing this wrong? Okay. So you're saying the Explorer would be $55,000. Okay. And that's also a chief's vehicle. So that's
Correct.
a couple years down the road that you're requesting that. And then we're looking further down the road to replacing. Is that another chief's vehicle? The $60,000 in the
First two were
2025,
assistant
that was-
chiefs. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely. That's why we're here.
Just to be clear, so the chief and two assistant chiefs have SUVs, and do they use those for their personal use so that if they're on call, they can, I mean, how does this work? Are they only used to respond to fires, or are they used all the time?
No, they're used.
Vehicles used?
They're used all the time within range. If they go out of service or if they go on vacation, obviously they don't take it with them.
Okay.
It stays here, but during normal business and usage, going to the store, doing errands, it keeps them with them so that if there's a call, they can respond from there.
Okay. What's the range? When you say range, does that mean if they're going up, if they're going 100 miles, they're going upstate on a Saturday for on the weekend? Do they take? Is there a defined range? Is there a defined range?
They can't go outside of 30 miles.
30 miles?
Correct.
Okay. More. Okay. The 2007, could we, if the other 2009 Dodge and 2010 Ford need to get replaced in 2023, instead of when we replace the 2010 Ford Explorer, can we take the chief's 2017 Tahoe, pass it on to the assistant chief, and get a new car for the chief so that we're getting 2 cars instead of 3 in the course of 5 years? Do you know what I'm saying?
You lost me on that.
So let's say you're going to replace the 2009, you're projecting to reduce 2009 Durango to replace that this year. You're projecting to replace the 2010 Ford Explorer in 2023.
Yeah.
And the chief's car in 2025.
Correct.
So what I asked was, in 2023, instead of getting a new car for the assistant chief, can we pass the 2017 down to the assistant chief and get a new car for the chief, so that in the course of the 5 years, we're only getting 2 new cars instead of 3? Because it would seem that the 2017 is not that old and could be, if it's in good shape, pass that on to the assistant chief in 2023, get a new chief's car. So we're getting 2 vehicles instead of 3 in the course of 5 years. Is that feasible?
It's feasible, but at some point in time, the 2017 is going to come due for a replacement as well.
Okay.
So even if you pass it down, you're going to have to replace it anyway at some point in time. And whether that's 2 years down the road or 3.
Do these vehicles get a lot of mileage on them?
They get some mileage. The mileage isn't that big of a deal. It's more of the constant running, and when they're on the scene of a call, they're constantly running. They're idling.
Okay.
You get a lot of use. It's hard miles on them.
Okay.
And the
Why are they
2009
constantly
Durango
running?
is actually just rusting out.
Why do they constantly run? In order to run their emergency lights and
The
radios?
lights, the radios, all that stuff, yes.
Yeah.
So if I may, Nick, by the time we get to 2022-23, I think the Chiefs can take a closer look at the 2017 and say, oh, would it last another 2 or 3 years? And we can determine that at that point, if that sounds reasonable.
Okay. So we could look at it then. Just try to see where we can get by.
Absolutely.
Do any of the other board members have any questions for the chief or Bob Outhouse? Good. So tonight, what I wanted to do is to go over everything so we kind of have an idea of what the needs are going in the future here. So what I'd like to do, because it's after 9, I don't want to keep you guys till 11:30, 12 o'clock. So what I'd like everyone to do with this information is to look at this and decide what the priorities are. And then next Tuesday, we can have a further discussion on this. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
So the meeting next Tuesday is just a follow-up.
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Okay.
So we can resolve it, you know.
Mayor, do you want all the department heads there again to answer questions, or do you want to just
I
have a
hate
board
to ask them to
discussion?
do it again, but there might be questions after everybody sits and reviews things, you know. I don't think the meeting next week will be that long, because what we're going to do is bring forward our thoughts and then decide what we figure is a priority.
I would think that we've had the input from the department heads. We don't have to have them all sitting there through every bit of this. We can all discuss it, and then whatever communications need to be made to department heads could take place. But, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I hate to have them again tonight, you know, next week. Okay, is that good with everybody?
Yeah.
Sure. I have a question for Marcus. Marcus, when you're talking about bans and bonds, the band interest is lower than the bond interest. At least that's the way it used to be. The other day, you had said we can keep certain loans in the band status in perpetuity. I thought the bond companies were only allow you to have a band for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, on the local finance law, exemption is the sewer. So sewer projects, and we did the pumps, like the pump station for $1 million. We can continue those in bands if the board wishes to do that, or combine that into one bond. So that's the only exception under the law. All the other projects, general operating projects, are limited to 5 years.
So the sewer plant can remain in a band. Is that right?
That's in the band right now, because I was just waiting for the board to make the determination on all the other projects that we want to do. So that way we could combine it into the bond with other projects that has a longer life, and then actually increase the average life of the entire bond issue.
But when you take out a band, though, you are paying off principal. It's not just interest only until you convert to a bond, is it?
You can skip 1 year's worth of principal, which we did for the sewer project last year. Put it that way. I just wanted to reduce the impact to the budget until we decide what the long-term goals are for the village board in regards to keeping that as a band separately, combining into a bond. And again, I can give you different analysis from financial advisors, what that would look like.
Well, if your interest rate on a band is lower, why would you move it to a bond?
That's a gamble you take, because it depends on what the economy is doing. I mean, and Sean, you were probably around when the interest rates were 8-10%, because I remember those years too. Hopefully we'll hit those years again. But my concern would be if the interest rates are going higher, inflation rates go on, it just then you might see a band at 3%, and then you have to have a high interest payment.
So
that's the only reason.
The band is a variable interest rate. It's a VAR, right?
Correct.
So the bond is a fixed interest rate.
You're locked in, yeah.
Okay, so that's the benefit that you. Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
And what is the interest rate difference? You said the band is 1.7%. What are the bonds running right
The
now?
bond is 1.5%, 1.15. The band that we took on the sewer was 0.85.
Okay. All right.
Wow, I wish I could borrow money at that rate.
Oh, yeah. That would be nice.
Yeah. So like I said, so if we set the priorities, I can sit down financial advisors and get you what the principal and interest would be, and then we can actually have a discussion how you want to move forward on that.
Okay. All right. So what I think we need to do is just decide, you know, what things are a priority, and then we'll discuss it further next week, and then we'll have a better picture of what to do going forward.
Perfect.
Anybody have any other questions, comments? We're good.
Well, what's our surplus right now? Well, what do we have in the bank?
If I remember correctly, I don't have the financial report. I can get to it, but I think it was like a little bit over 600,000 was the fund balance, unappropriated fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
And we currently have the $50,000 for the vehicle replacement that's been budgeted for the repayment of the fire truck.
Correct. And Sean, just to let you know, the fire truck that was ordered, we're taking, I think
it's about 40,000.
I think we're taking, I gotta get you the numbers. We're taking a certain amount of money out of that to help pay off the principal to bring the payment down for the fire truck.
From their recreation fund. From their vehicle replacement
From the
fund.
vehicle replacement fund, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
I
it'll
think
be,
it was like-
and I'll let you know what the new balance is after that as well.
It was a couple 100,000, wasn't it?
Yes.
150,
Yeah,
200 or something?
there's like 300,000 in it. I think we were taking like 170,000.
Something
in
like that, yeah.
ballpark. So
Right.
we could still say that we could replace some of the equipment that the fire department's asking for out of the current vehicle replacement fund.
That's correct. That's that's a very good suggestion, a very good option for one of those fire chief's vehicle. You can pay the 50,000 or pay a balance of it and ban some of it. So, I mean, the door is open for you guys, depending how what you want to do.
Yeah. So here's the thing: if we're able to pay for this new vehicle that they're getting, that they're getting shortly, from the annual 50,000 that we put into the vehicle replacement fund, there's not much left from that. That fund is not going to grow very much, and then of course, if we use it for a assistant chief's car, it's definitely not going to grow at all. So the issue will become if we have to replace the 91 Pierce pumper. At that point, we may not have a choice but to finance it. So
Correct.
So
Correct.
right now we can work off the current 50,000 a year budget, but that's not going to be the case if we have to replace that other vehicle.
Is that $50,000 embedded in a contract? Because it used to be variable. It was whatever the board felt that we could afford at the time.
It's not in the contract. I believe it's what we contribute every year based on long range needs and how much money has to be there. If you go to 20, there was I think at one point we did 25,000, but then you're going to be in a hole when you get to have to replace a vehicle. So,
no, listen, I understand that. I just want to make sure there was no set requirement.
No.
There was one year.
It's not.
One year
the
there
board's
was a
decision
budget
at
was
budget
zero.
time.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct, Sean. You can do 0 to 100,000 if you want.
I just want to make sure that it was up to our purview.
Right.
We weren't bound by any document that said, hey, we have to put in 50, we put in 75. Okay, no problem. I understand. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, we good, everyone?
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
If anybody, I'm sorry, Marcus.
No, sorry. If anybody has any questions on any financial stuff, please give me a call before the next meeting if you need anything. Okay.
All right,
Well,
Thank you, Marcus.
when are we going to need to have a decision on all of these capital expenditures? All right, because I hate leaving things out for 6 months and you just.
No, we're going to make a decision next week because that's why we did the review. We're going to make some decisions next week. What's the priority? What's the most important thing? What we feel is that we need to do now, because there was a lot of information here. There was a lot of, different, I don't want to say.
There's actually a section, we didn't get to the village hall. And to me, one of the things, and to me, one of the boiler replacement is something we should be
That's important.
doing as soon as possible, because we're pissing away fuel and the annual expense is greater. The new boiler will be more efficient. And, so something like that is a bit of an investment to do sooner rather than later. So along with a few other things we talked about, like the Freightliner for the highway department, an SUV for the police department, I think that the boiler replacement is one of the priority items.
I'm so sorry, I missed that last page. We got talking about the pool and everything, and
we can talk about it more tonight. We can talk about the next meeting. The other thing in there is, again, one thing that does have a payback is the LED lights at Village Hall. I got some price for that. That's an 8-year payback as an option as well.
Based on how is that calculated? The 8-year
I actually
payback?
have an electrician come and walk through the entire building and count how many lights. And they gave me a percentage savings going from incandescent lights to LEDs.
And what is the projection that you save half of your electric bill?
It's like very good. It's like 47%.
Wow, good.
46,
Marcus,
47%.
if you guys remember, we did work on that years ago, Mike Baisley and I, and we had NYSERDA come in, and they did a study, and it didn't look like we were going to save that much. But at the time, the lights, we were told that the lights weren't that great. We weren't going to get the brightness out of it. But this is like 8 years later. So what I'd like to do, Marcus, is also for you to make a call to NYSERDA to see if they have any grants or anything available with that?
Sure, I'll check with them.
And for our power consumption, are we allowed to put on solar panels, or because we're under a Power Authority nonprofit contract, we're not allowed to do that?
No, you can put solar panels up, absolutely. It just comes down to how you're going to pay for it. That's it. Yeah, when I was in Dobbs, we put solar panels at the DPW garage. We put solar panels up at the library. But NYSERDA paid 100%. At that time, they paid 100% grant at that point. So it didn't cost the village anything.
Well, now it's only around 50%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's check with NYSERDA. Let's see, what's going on.
Another thing, Sean, just another thing is that actually people are putting up the solar carports in parking lots as well. So that's another thing that's happening too.
Well, you still have to get approval from Con Edison. You're not allowed to put up more than 100%, 110% of your consumption. Mm. So you're not an actual generator. They have to save the availability of everybody else. So Con Edison has to approve your array. So you're allowed 110%.
Gotcha. That's good. All right, good.
All right. So on a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Thanks,
Aye.
guys.
Aye.
Good meeting.
Okay, good
Thank
night.
you.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay.
Hey, everybody.